Hi, this is Myra Tanksley, and I'm recording this on April the 11th, 2017. And I am a proud single parent of a young man who has autism. He just turned 24 years old. Um, Again, he was not allowed to spend his birthday with me. Matter of fact, because of my advocacy and my race, they have not allowed my son and I to visit since March the 15th, 2015. The last time I actually viewed him or lay my eyeballs on him or actually seen him, because I knew that he would be going to an appointment that day, and I was um, sitting in my car waiting to see my son, to see what he looked like. That was July the 8th, 2015. And the last time I have heard from my son, and I want to say that if he doesn't call me, it's not because he doesn't want to call me, it's because he has not been allowed to. He has 24/7 home staff that has abused him, neglected him, and exploiting him for money like all the rest of the wicked scum that's in our lives at this time. But the last time he was allowed to call me was December 10th, 2016. And so he has not been allowed to have any kind of family life. He has no quality of life. And I'm a victim in this thing as a mother, too. I'm a registered nurse. Um, I'm a Christian. I'm not on any abuse or neglect registries. I've never abused, neglected, or exploited my son. Um, so something's wrong. And that's why I said, this country is going to just go down to the pits of hell. People wonder why God allowed Trump to get elected and stuff, because it's just too many sins and hypocrisy that this country has done um, to different groups of people. And I throw racism in this thing because, I've been forever falsely accused of escalating my son. Now he's autistic, and as this terrible audio tape will show, uh, just because uh, uh, people don't treat you right doesn't mean you have done anything wrong. But my son will always think something was the matter with him because of the way he's been treated. And it just shows what happens when you don't have proper staff or people in jobs that they're have no business being in. Because nobody knew what autism was, let alone how to work with him. Heck, they got mad when I would even ask them questions. That's why they attacked my character. And because like, what this black mother coming in here asking us questions and speaking out and so-called complaining about what's going on with her son. But this terrible audio tape, and I got many, and I also have a diary too, because this happened back on February the 27th, 2012, when he was in the state of Ohio, operated and ran ICF MR facility. And ICF means Intermediate Care Facility for the Mentally Retarded. And it was called Columbus Developmental Center. And my son didn't, was actually there twice. The first time was voluntarily, and it was for 47 days, and he still was abused and neglected because I was getting the home modified, and with all the construction going on, he wasn't going to be able to tolerate all of the noise and the drilling. It would have put him in sensory overload. That's the only reason why he was there. And then the second time he was illegally committed there um, as a long-term resident. And I say illegally because to illegally commit somebody in a ICF MR facility, you have to be moderately retarded. And he's not moderately retarded. Matter of fact, he's got high functioning autism. And he got abused and beaten and assaulted by both staff and residents. I even seen one of the staff members attack him with my own eyes. And I'm not a delusional girl. So Anyway, this audio tape um, will show um, will show his suffering because I have 3 Facebook pages that I created. That's just full of evidence because I'm not full of hot air, and neither is my son. When he tells me things, it's not just his imagination, and it's not my imagination. And like I said, now I went in there and seen him in terrible shape. Things that any parent that love their son or daughter, it doesn't matter how old they are, because my son just turned 24 a couple days ago, and he's still my baby, and he's a wonderful young man. And they mistreated him so bad he thought that he was a criminal or something because he would say, I suck. And I'll tell him, no, you don't suck. I said, just because people mistreat you don't mean you deserve it. I said, look the way, and I'm a Christian, so is my son. And I said, look the way they treated Jesus. And here he was actually the Son of God. The Bible says he was without sin, yet he was numbered with the transgressors. I said, just because people treat somebody mean doesn't mean that person deserves it. A lot of times it's the people that's doing it that's sick and wicked, and they're just the lowest of the low. And I had to tell him that. I said, you don't suck. Same way with me. They took my guardianship away. Don't mean that it was right. I said, just because somebody does something to you doesn't mean that you deserve it. Of course, like I said, the race thing has something to do with it, and then my advocacy, because it protects them. They don't have to call me and tell me anything. It really, really does. It protects them, and so they don't want to um, have to call me and tell me, oh, your son is in the hospital, uh, injured, and we need you to sign to give consent for treatments. They would have a low life, dirty, wicked um, attorney, unfit, dirty, lying, and this attorney Aaron Sanford has lied on me something terrible. And I can say these things because I got evidence to prove it. I can get on YouTube, and this is going to YouTube. I can post it on the Facebook pages. I can tell anybody face to face or any other um, mode of communication, and nobody's going to accuse me of slander because I got the evidence to prove it. I got audio tapes, I got pictures, I got documents. You know, I even got a videotape and stuff. But they appointed some low down, dirty, lying, wicked. I mean, this woman's like a witch, but she's an attorney, one of those unfit attorneys that practice injustice and corrupt. Um, they appointed her to be the limited guardian. And, even the Bible says these people exist. The Bible's full of injustice. God uh, feelings on injustice. He even says that injustice exists. And it's throughout the scriptures. I mean, it's in the Old Testament, it's in the New Testament. And when God talks about justice, who do you think he's talking about? He's not talking about um, the average Joe on the street. He's talking about these corrupt attorneys and judges and the courts and magistrates and court personnel, and you just name it, prosecutors and court investigators. That's the scum he's talking about. He's talking about people in the legal department or legal system. That's exactly who he's talking about. Just like people can't tell me racism don't exist in this country. The book of First John, not the Gospel of John, but First John, even though the book of James talks about prejudice too. But First John talks about where God says, how can you say you love me who you have not seen and hate your brother who you have seen? But everybody's in denial, just like nobody, in the system is going to do the unpopular thing and admit that Marquis is being abused and neglected. He's been kidnapped. He's been exploited for federal funds. None of them people are going to admit that. And he's missing to me because I haven't heard anything from him because they won't allow him to call me. and I haven't heard anything about him. So as far as I'm concerned, he's missing. Because even though we're Christians, I know God's got this thing, you know, in the natural mind, the carnal mind, he could be incapacitated, he could be fighting for his life, he could be dead or anything. But I know God's got this thing, and I know God's will be done. That's in the book of Proverbs. It says mankind or human beings can make all the plans that they want to make, but it's going to be God's will that will be done. And I believe that He's got a calling on my son's life and my life too, especially my son, and that God's going to bring him out and he's going to live the life that God has destined for him to live. So I have 3 Facebook pages. I'm going to go ahead and give you those names. I always do this with every audio video that I made. It's never really video on them, but I call them that. They're usually just the recordings of evidence that I have. But I do have a videotape that you can um, see, which is the last time I seen my son, and he was so happy to see me. And then they try to turn him against me because they always try to break up the family, especially the black family. I mean, it's a sick fantasy, to try to drive a wedge between me and my son and try to make it look like, because they can't say I'm a whore or I ain't got an education. They can't say nothing else about me, or I'm a drug addict or something like that. So they always have tried to attack my character because I'm got them down and I got the evidence to to show what filthy human beings these people are. And I'm talking about the government. I'm talking about state of Ohio, probate court, Franklin County, Ohio, all of that scum. And I'll tell them to their face. Go to my Facebook page and talk to the hand. That's the way I do it. I to prove that you some filthy human beings. But like I said, I'm not on no abuse or neglect registry. I'm not on, nothing. But I hope to be in the book of life on the last days when the Bible um, uh, when the Bible tells us, or I shouldn't say when the Bible, but when the book of life is opened up for who's going to be spending eternity with Jesus. That's a book that I'm going to happen to be in. But I'm not on no abuse and neglect registry. And but that's one thing they have always tried to put a wedge between my son, and they're trying to make him forget about me. But I doubt it. He's probably just having to figure. I want to see my mom, and he knows that I love him. He wants to be back home because my son got all kind of hobbies that he likes. He has no quality of life. He likes to listen to music. Um, he likes certain uh, TV channels. He likes spending time with his mother. He just adores me. He's got games and things that he likes to play with, you know, and he's not doing none of that stuff. He has no kind of quality of life. And then they let his skin get so bad, now you got to get light treatments every Tuesday and Thursday. But getting back to these pages, let me give you the names. The first one is the abuse and neglect of autistic Marquis Tanksley by the government. Second one is justice for autistic Marquis Tanksley. And then the third one is the audio tapes of Marquis Tanksley is suffering abuse and neglect. And again, the reason why I said that racism has something to do with this, when these other autistic individuals, and it doesn't matter whether they're adult or children, when they're having meltdowns and they're white, I bet you they're not telling the white parents, oh, you escalate them and stuff. And they have always said that, I make my son have meltdowns, whether I'm talking to him on the phone or in person, or even if I'm not there, or if after he hangs up with me. Just something to say about this black mother that dares to expose and challenge the system. And this terrible, terrible, terrible audio tape, because what I'm doing with this last page, the audio tape page of Marquis and his suffering, abuse, and neglect, I just told you the title of it. I'm actually letting people hear Marquis in his own words, because he's high functioning, so he's verbal and he's able to tell me things. And he would tell me, you know, and he would just be suffering um, and he would tell me, describe abuse, describe neglect. He would be describing, you know, um, his feelings of missing me. He wanted to come home, how much he loved me. And I said, Mark, he could speak for himself. He could speak for himself. So, and I got I'm an evidence girl, so I got hundreds of audio tapes and pictures, and at that time I was keeping a diary. And I don't play the whole um, tape because the tapes are actually probably they could be a good, I would say 45 minutes to about 2 hours. But this particular tape, and like I said, it's February 27, 2012. I had came in to visit Marquis, but earlier that day I got a call and they told me that he had scratches on his hand. And they didn't tell me how he got it. But later on, when I went to visit my son the same day, they were not superficial scratches. So, and my son didn't really have long fingernails. So they probably had restrained him earlier, and he got scratches from them restraining him because nobody knew how to work with my son. Half of it is part of the personality because you got people in there that are unfit. Because I've seen people that if I had a dog, I wouldn't let them. If I had a dog, I wouldn't let them take care of them because they're not people persons. They're actually there for the paycheck. And I've seen that a lot with a lot of people that have been in jobs that work with people that are autistic or, developmentally disabled. And they're unfit. They don't have the personalities. They don't have the knowledge base. They don't have the skills because it takes skills to work with autistic people. And as always, I would go over there most of the time, almost most of the time. When I would go over there, my son's had already been restrained earlier in the day. He's already traumatized. I'll go over there and find him with his head covered up with a blanket and everything, where they had put him in such bad sensory overload that it was like he was trying to block out the environment and the people. I mean, most of the time I would find him like this. And he would be traumatized because I've had to coax him to get him to uncover his head. But he always made sure that I knew how he felt because he would tell me and then he would be yelling because it's like, Mom, get me out of here. This place sucks. They dragged me, Mom, when they were restraining me and stuff. But they would have him so traumatized and terrorized from throwing him down on the floor and abusing him and restraining him, or the noise on the unit would be too much for him. And that's why I said any of those wicked human scum, and I know I'm a Christian, but these people are just human scum. Ain't nobody gonna say nothing to me. And I'm just waiting for the Lord to really blow it up. Because I got names that I'm naming, that I have already named. Ain't nobody gonna accuse me of slander because I'm telling the truth, and they know it. But on this particular day, like many other days, you know, here he was escalated. But this time, um, after I had got the phone call earlier and said that he had scratches, I was going over to visit him, usually daily. And this is the first time he was there. That's the reason why when they illegally committed him the second time, I definitely did not want him to go. I was his guardian still. But probate court of Franklin County went ahead and overruled me and went ahead and illegally committed him there because of uh, Franklin County Board of DD, which is just pure trash. They're just so trashy, every one of them. And I done exposed them, and so I'm the mother from hell because I expose them. I get all the dirt and I put it right on out there, and they can't stand that. But ain't nobody gonna accuse me of slander And it ain't going nowhere. Because I think I'm just being used by God to dispose this scum, and He'll blow it up, and He'll take care of spiking the booties, because He got rid of a attorney and let me know that He put that man's light out. He's no longer among the living, and God went ahead and let me know that this man was deceased. But that's another story. But anyway, so when I went over there, he was sitting on the floor, and I could read it from my diary, and he was saying he saw, and uh, there was one guy that was upsetting him, and my son ended up injuring his knee, and me being a nurse, I said, well, and he hadn't got his meds yet. So I went over there and told the nurse, I said, well, because it was so painful, he couldn't hardly walk on it. So I got my son in the chair in his room and was encouraging him and trying to calm me down. And then I went over there. I said, well, I'll go ahead and let the nurse know that she needs to bring your meds over. Because the nurses over there were just a mess. Because there's no oversight. Those residents are abused and neglected. Um, the nursing care was very poor. Of course, this was a nasty, racist white nurse. Her name was Sue. And my son ended up telling on her too, how she had been treating him. And I'll get to that part. But I went over there and I said, well, he just injured his knee. It's very painful. And he can't walk over here. Can you bring his meds to him? Which I thought was a decent request. And then he's going to need some Motrin or something like that. And I said, I'll go ahead and put ice on it and elevate it in the chair. And she didn't like that because they don't like you getting involved because they're so used to doing things their way, just no oversight, doing what they want to do, halfway doing their jobs, you know. That's the reason why I don't have no respect for the federal government. I definitely can't stand the state of Ohio. But the federal government, I said, now you're paying these state agencies all this money for them. They don't follow your laws. They don't follow your regulations. They're abusing, neglecting, and exploiting these disabled residents for money. And you're still giving them money. And that's the DOJ, that's HHS, Health and Human Services, CMS, Department of Justice, when they're violating their civil rights as an institutionalized person, and anybody else that's in the federal government, the White House, all of them. That's why I said I don't have no respect for this government. I turn the flag upside down. If I ever have to carry the flag, it'll be upside down. I said, because he sure ain't got no life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness and justice. And really, neither have I in certain ways. Not as bad as my son. I said, because anytime a loving, supportive, professional mother can't see her own son, and you letting these wicked witches like Sanford and all the rest of that scum in the system stop him from being able to be with his mother and this mother from being with her son, I'm done with this country. And I said, and the beginning is starting. The United States, it's going to come home to roost because it's been so hypocritical. Well, we're a Christian nation and all this kind of stuff. And, we will take care, we got human rights, and look what they have done to certain groups of people in this country. But anyway, when I went over there and seen this, and then his knee was hurting him so bad. So when the nurse came over, her name was Sue, and she wasn't but trash. When she came over there, because you got to be trash to be in a profession like that and mistreat helpless people, like a child or a disabled person or elderly people that can't advocate for themselves. So she came over there and she said, well, I can give you Tylenol. I said, no, Tylenol. I said, Tylenol doesn't work for him. Get some Motrin. Well, I had to call the doctor. I said, well, call the doctor then. That's what you're going to have to do. Because I'm his guardian. I want him to have Motrin, and I wanted him to have a picture taken of it. Talking about an x-ray. So you'll hear her come over there. And then my son said, why were you mad at me? Why were you treating me mean? Because before I had got over there, they had restrain him earlier in the hallway. And you don't just do that with autistic people. You should try to de-escalate them, take away the triggers so that they don't go into a meltdown, and they actually will fight you more. But you got to know how to do it too, because I seen bruises and all kind of stuff on my son. And one time I seen him restraining, and that's on one of the tapes uh, that I have, and they had tried to flip him over and had him flip on the star. So no, 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 no. You got to reflip him before you suffocate him. Because my son was saying, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Just like the Eric Garner stuff. I mean, it's just ridiculous how people can get away with stuff. And like I said, now that man should have been dead. And that cop should have been indicted. Because if you're going to know how to use the right techniques, because if you're going to kill somebody, and like Charles Barkley said, to me, that was negligence. It was a negligent homicide. Because you got to know that when you're doing these things to people, don't kill them. Know the right technique. That's just like a surgeon going in there and being negligent because he doesn't have the skills to do the right type of procedure or operation and stuff. And when people get away with that, I just don't have no sympathy for that. So I told him, I said, no, you need to turn him over right now. Because you don't, if you're trying to restrain him, then you need to restrain him, not kill him. There's just no excuse for that. So she came over there, and that's what my son said to her. He said, why were you yelling at me and treating me mean? So you'll hear that on tape. And she was saying some stupid thing, well, because you were yelling. Well, if he was yelling, you need to understand, Miss Nurse, that this patient or this resident, client, or whatever you want to call them, is a client with a disability, a developmental disability. I don't think you're going to actually hear a client that's verbal and upset to be talking in a whisper, because all it does is escalate them more when they're restraining. And I said, when my son is upset and hurt and in pain, he's going to yell. And you can kind of, if you have any kind of basic common knowledge about autism, then that's what you should be able to expect. And treating them mean and responding by being unprofessional and mean and abusive, because she probably was very verbally abusive, and because that's what my son said. Why were you treating me mean, and like ignoring him, and just, well, he actually said, why were you mad at me too? That's not going to help the situation. But nobody knows how to work with autistic patients. Well, at least not my son. I've never seen it. I never, ever really, really see it. And I'm talking about over at CDC. Nobody knew how to, and I got stories to tell, but this tape actually has that on there. It has when I first went over there, and he was sitting on the floor saying he was suck, and that he sucked, and I said, no, you don't suck. No. I said, these people were throwing you in the overload all the time. Because it just was a terrible place. As soon as they got done with that, the walls in the house, and then Franklin County Board of DD with their trashy self, that scum. I got so much stuff on them. They hate my guts. They hate me more than the state does. They went ahead and told them not to finish the wall. So the walls were put in there, but me and my brother, we had to finish painting it and stuff. And when I got over there and seen all of that was happening, I said, well, because I would come every day, I said, I'm going to keep, as soon as I can get him home, as soon as that house, the walls are finished, he's coming home. He was only there for 47 days. And I said, well, then I'm going to go ahead and stay with him. And because you're going to hear him going, oh, it hurts, it hurts. All of that's on this tape. And, I had to stay strong. I had to stay calm. and do the right things for my son. I can't lose it like some of the white parents would have went off on him. What do you do? What's going on with my son? They've been acting a fool. Well, you can't do that. I said, because these people don't know what they're doing. They would love to have to um, uh, uh, have me go off so they could throw me in jail or something like that. So I had to, stay calm for Marquis, and that's what I did. And I said, well, I'm going to stay here. And I said, um, hopefully you'll be able to go to sleep. And I stayed there probably a lot longer than I usually did. And then I went ahead and called the superintendent, that Mike Snow, and I told him about it. And all of that is because he's got an excuse, if you want to call it that. He's disabled. He can't help he's autistic. But if your staff had the personalities and a knowledge base, because he was a scum, Mike Snow, the superintendent, he actually wrote in one of the investigations that my son was trying to get his staff in trouble. And I said, now see, he doesn't even need to be in that position. Because anybody knows that MR, mentally retarded people, and autistic people don't sit around trying to get people in trouble. But there's things that comes with their conditions, and they can help it if noise, or if they're going to have problems hearing noise, or and it's all senses actually. I said, because I see people not even know how to approach my son. I said, okay, great, you're going to get ready to throw him in a meltdown. And when he would get so traumatized, that's why they said he would run in the closet sometimes just to get away from the environment. And I had to come in here and see this stuff as a mother. And that's why I say I'm a victim in this thing. And I vow I'm going to let the world know. And the witch, which is Aaron Sanford, and all the rest of that trash, especially all that racist trash, ain't going to say no buku nothing to me. Now their retaliation might be, well, haha, we ain't gonna never let you see your son. But that's not really up to them. That's up to Jesus. That's up to Jesus. Jesus has got the final say. Because that's part of Marquis's life and my life. And if God wants us to be back together, they're not gonna be able to stop that. And the Lord told me that, just you stay faithful, pray for your enemies. He said, because you know what I did with Belinky. Vengeance is mine. I will repay. But your son, I'm with your son. And I know how it feels. Because Jesus said, I see my mother stand at the cross and cry over me. And I comfort her. He said, I know a mother's love. He said, but this is in my hands. And he said, you step back and let me handle it. He said, you can keep on exposing them. He said, I got control over that. Because I'll bust that thing wide open the way I want to do it. But a lot of people forget that God has a will for our lives. And they also forget that God has his own appointed time for everything. He has the perfect time and the perfect way that he brings things about. That's everything. And see, God hates pride. Just like, that attorney that I said that he put his light out. And let me know about it. And this man bragged to me on the phone, thought he was all powerful, unstoppable, and God put him down because he was so evil. And he even bragged about how he abused people in court. But God, especially when you're messing with a Christian, that God is right in the middle of the thing with us. He actually carries the Christian, and he tells us to be still and let him handle it. And that's what I had to, because if it wasn't for Jesus, I would be pulling my hair out. I said, because this is an awful thing to know your son is disabled and you can't see him, and he's an abusive and a wicked, sick, corrupt, and incompetence is just about as bad as the corruption. He's in a system like that. And I already seen my son abused and neglected and exploited. But God can give you the peace when you let God handle it. He said, this is my thing, and I'm with your son. And I got the day that I'm going to end this thing. But you just got to trust God. So this retaliation, and I think that's some of it too. But really, don't have the ultimate power that they think they have. Because Marquis is a Christian too. And see, they didn't like me praying with him and telling him he was going to come back home. And I would tell him, I said, sometimes, you know, um, uh, God will let you know the exact date when he's going to do things. Sometimes you just got to have faith, and he don't let you know. You just have to believe that he's going to do it. And I would tell him, you come back home, you be home in 2015, because this has been going on since 2012 with uh, with the state of Ohio. This has been going on in Franklin County, and I said, only God knows when he's going to do it. But you just got to believe that he's going to do it. I said it could be 2015, 2016, 2017. I said, but you can believe that God's already got it worked out. The date's already been set. But God has an appointed time for everything. So anyway, let me get ready and get to this. And then after that was done, um, I had their investigator come over and look at the knee, because I know his knee got injured by hitting the floor, but I don't know if somebody pushed him down. Was it a result of one of their uh, takedowns, or a result of abuse? And then the scratches, I want him to see the scratches on his wrist. But I would come in there and see all of this abuse and neglect. And I said, no. Mm-mm. So that's not on this tape, because he came in and talked to me and Marquis, called himself trying to interview Marquis and me. And then I also called Mike Snow and was telling him what was going on. But it was terrible. And here's my diary here, where I actually had wrote it down and stuff. And like I said, I had got a call. Earlier that day, I got a call from Ohio Legal Rights Services, now Disability Rights Ohio, from Madonna Wilson, and we were talking, and I was telling her about talking to Danny, about Danny saying he seen Marquis being um, thrown to the floor and punched in the head by an employee named Bobby, who was named Robert. They call him Robert and Bobby. And so it's a diary of everything that went on that day. And then it said, Bill called and said Marquis has scratches on his wrist. He didn't tell me how it occurred. And I told him to tell Mike Snow Marquis not to be restrained anymore due to his hernia, and that the nurses should be monitoring his cold symptoms. And then I had called a nurse, Rosie, and she said Marquis has 2 scratches, both superficial, and he had no cold symptoms. But then when I went over there, they were not superficial scratches, and he still has some nasal discharge. And then I arrived at 7 p.m. Marquis was on the floor, very upset and agitated, saying he sucks. Staff were standing around him. He was, had got up, and he reported extreme pain in his left inner knee. And then Marquis asked the nurse why she was mean to him. And there was another hole in the bedroom wall. 2 cuts on left hand for early in the day. No Band-Aid on them. Plaster and piece of metal door. Stop on floor dirty, have a nasal discharge, apply ice to his knee and elevated leg and recliner. Nurse told me to bring him to her, but I told her he couldn't come. She needs to give me the meds in his room on the unit. And so I wrote all of that stuff down. But anyway, here you'll be able to hear this. And like I said, it's just, I don't know. I had to come in there and see this stuff, And I said, long after Me and Marquis are gone to be with Jesus in heaven or whatever. These pages will stay up here, and this evidence will stay up here. Let people hear it, you know. And with the hell, I said they had put Marquis through living hell. They have really put him through hell. But I've suffered with him as a mother. I think any mother or father could just, you know, you have to go in there and see this stuff, you know. And these people going on with their lives and living their life, a lot of them will bust hell wide open if they don't repent and get out of that. Because God ain't happy with that kind of stuff. I said, that's just like mistreating a child. And see, I ain't supposed to say nothing about it. I'm supposed to keep my mouth shut and hang my head down low. And what I'm saying when I say racism, I think they can take it from a white parent more than they could take it from a black parent. But I know that God sometimes just go ahead and chooses who he going to choose to work his will and work his purpose. And I know I'm supposed to expose these people, but it ain't going no place. The Facebook pages ain't going no place, and it's going to be out here for people to hear. Because I know, and I really believe this, that Marquis is not the only disabled person, developmentally disabled person that's been abused. Because there's so many people, they just put a body in there. They don't have no training. They don't have the personality. I said, shoot, they used to get mad at me just to come in there and ask, as a mother, how my son is doing, or even to say, well, I'm noticing these things. Where's his clothes at? Or, they resented that. They really, really resented that, and they still do, because these people are so used of having no oversight from the courts on down, government on down. We ain't just talking about agencies. We're talking about the courts. They're so used to look at all the unfit and all the corrupt uh, people in the legal system, in these courts and stuff, all the corruption in it and stuff. Nothing's done about it. It's all swept under the rug. That's their culture. That's why I don't have no respect for attorneys. To me, they're just scum, unless they're a civil rights attorney. That's because of all the profession. I couldn't sleep at night. I'm going to uphold the law and all this kind of stuff and be lying and taking bribes. And that's why God is so angry. He's angry with all sin. But the Bible's just full of scripture about injustice. God is so angry with injustice, It just, because that's the profession that's supposed to uphold the law. But severing them is just pure human scum. They're just human trash. And like I said, nobody's going to send me a letter. When I say they're human trash, I'll tell people go to the pages and see what I'm talking about. Only human trash does what I got on my page or pages. All the corruption, all the incompetence, all the lying. That's why I said I don't worry about nothing like that. And then the Lord said, you ain't got to worry about Marquis either, because I got him. And I'm going to bring him right on back home. Because he said, that's up to me. And he said, I know you'll tell them too. And that's what I have to tell them. That ain't up to them to send Marquis back home. That's up to God. And he's going to come home when he wants him to come home. And how he wants him to come home. But this is to show what goes on. Because there's no oversight, not from the federal government. It's all swept under the rug. It's like a code of silence. All this stuff happens, outside of the public's eye. And it's a disgrace. It's a total, total disgrace. So, without further ado, here's his tape. And like I said, it's the snippets of Marquis telling me that he sucked and they had grabbed him in the hallway, and which is a no-no, because I just will make them just escalate and trigger them more. Because I had to tell a person in the hospital ER that I said, oh no, you can't approach him like that. He's got autism, Didn't have a clue. And then, you'll hear him saying his knee hurt and going, oh, and then the nurse and him asking the nurse, why were you mean and mad at me? I mean, just sick things. So he told on her. I said, oh, so she gonna come over here and try to act halfway professional. And because and that was like a child, like an autistic person would say, now you're up here saying hi to me or asking me in a calm voice, but earlier you were treating me mean and mad. He was just blunt and honest with her. And I looked at her. I remember when he said that. And then I kind of said, nobody's being mean to you, to try to facilitate stuff. And then when he said that like, yeah, you were mad at me. Why were you treating me mean? And then I can remember how I looked at her, like, and you're a nurse? Because I thought that he was trying to say it at that moment when he said, why were you being mean to me? I said, nobody's being mean to you. But he was talking about when she had encountered him earlier, because she was one of that lazy trash that just was in a job, didn't want to be bothered, just pass a few meds and not don't even want to deal with those residents. But then when he actually came out, you treating me mean and all that. I know I looked at her. I said, forgive me, Lord. I said, because I just can't stand that trash. I can't stand racism, and I just can't stand trash like that, especially when they're in positions where they're supposed to help people. I can respect somebody out on the street more than I can respect, people in positions, in government positions or professions, and they treat people like crap. It's just like I'm looking at human garbage. And so I just kept quiet and let him come out, and so that's what he's talking about. That's what I was saying to myself. But anyway, here we go. And let you hear this. And this is on a micro cassette, so it's not clear. I didn't start taping on a smartphone or voice recorder until about February 2013. And this is from February 27, 2012. Here we go. So there you have it. Because at the beginning of the tape, when I was walking towards the building, and I entered the building, and then I was going towards a unit, you can hear me say, and like I said, this is on a micro cassette, so it's not that clear. But I actually said, "Oh, something's going on with my son," and then that's when he was saying he sucked, and then he said they had grabbed him in the hallway, which is why he probably had those scratches. Because they would just put him through hell all day long. I mean, either they were assaulting him and abusing him, or the unit was too noisy, or he was hungry. They halfway fed him, halfway fixed him things that he would eat. I mean, it was just terrible. He's still going through hell. They had put him through living hell. And that's why I said I'm done with this country. I don't care nothing about the government. I don't care about none of that stuff. I'm just going to just do what the Lord wants me to do and go on with my life with my son, you know, because I know God holds everything in his hands. But, you know, I had to walk in there and hear him, say they grabbed him, see scratches on his hand, even though they had called me earlier and said he had scratches on his hand, but, they were deep scratches. Uh, then he was talking about how his knee was hurting, and he was going, it hurts, it hurts. And, I said, nobody want to come in there and see their. I said, because it's a disrespect to me as a mother. That's the way I feel about it. That's I'm going to show these people how much I love my son. I said, you're exposed. You people want to be exposed on Facebook and with the audio tapes. And see, right now, besides retaliation, they know that, well, if we don't let her see him, if we don't let her talk to him, she can't get no more evidence. But I got enough evidence. I'm just beginning with the audio tapes. I got hundreds of tapes that show his suffering, his abuse, and his neglect, him describing abuse and neglect, his love for me, how he was suffering, how the emotional abuse, how he wanted to get back home, and how he loves his mother. I got tapes to show how I could de-escalate him and not escalate him, how much that he loved me and how he loved talking to me. I got to rebut everything. Ain't nothing they can do about it. Then I got tapes on them. I got tapes of me advocating for him, because, like I said, I actually had the investigator or so-called facility police come over that same evening. That's on this tape, but I didn't put it on here. Then I also called Mike Snow, the superintendent, and actually had a phone convo with him. I got a lot of anything. I said that's why no state lawyer, no attorney general Mike DeWine, or the Franklin County prosecutor, what's his name, that the Ron O'Brien, or any of that scum that works for any of those attorneys that work for Franklin County, Ohio, or the state of Ohio, ain't nobody gonna say nothing to me. I got too much evidence that back up what I say. That's just the way I do it. But all them scum, every last one of them. I said all them people are gonna bust hell wide open. Just wicked scum. So there you have it. Um, I've been doing this in numerical order. Like I think that my last audio tape was one from February 17, 2012, but I picked this one up, and I said I didn't realize that I was still back in February 17th, 2012. This one is from February 27, 2012. So I do have some more that I picked out, um, CDC visits and phone calls. So I'm going to go ahead and post this one, but I'll probably have maybe another one in between February 17, 2012 and February 27, 2012. But this was a terrible, terrible day for my son and for me, and I always try to cheer him up, encourage him, but I said that's my child. But a lot of that happened. That's not just an isolated incident. They did not know how to treat him uh, right as a human being and as an individual with a developmental uh, disability. They just didn't know how to, and didn't know how to treat me right. I said, because I sound like a mother that loves her child. I said, but I'm going to expose them for all that, you know. I can't do anything else. I don't have the power, because there's some things that only God can do. And he has the power to put down nations, governments, systems, individuals, peoples, causes. He's got the power to do it. And that's in his hands. But I can't expose him. And there ain't nothing they can do about it. No slander here. All truth. And thank you for listening. And um, happy birthday, 24th birthday, Marquis. You turned 24 2 days ago. I love you and miss you more than ever. I know Jesus is with you. I wish I could be with you, but I bought some more gifts and they're all waiting for you. And I'm just thanking God that He's going to bring you back home and that He's been protecting you and that He's going to clean up all the mess that they have made in your life and in my life. And I'm just waiting for you to come back home. I'm proud of you. I love you. Uh, Happy 24th birthday, your mom. And thank you for listening.